Well,
Well, pal,
well, pal.
I can't say it on the radio. Hey, Rob Brown here with you on this Thursday morning, April 4th
April
in
4th.
Memphis. Broadcasting Sidelines, SEC Sidelines, Sports Network and SECU, and we have got a dandy for you today. We got our executive producer, Brendan Martin, in the headquarters in Marion County. What state? Florida, horse capital of the world. Got a lot to cover. Matt Dean, coach from Rhodes College over in Memphis. And I'm going to tell you what, that's one of the most beautiful campuses. It is, they filmed a lot of movies there. You've probably seen them when they use that campus. It is gorgeous. Right next to the Memphis Zoo, which is one of the top zoos in the country/world. All right, Bo Carter will join us from out in Dallas-Fort Worth about a quarter after. Gary Harris, Tide 100.9 WVUA TV 23 in Tuscaloosa, does Tider Insider TV with Rodney Orr. We're going to talk about Alabama and their trip to the Final Four. Yeah, and I don't know if Gary, if they're flying them out there or they're taking the bus. But as our good friend Maury Gaston always says, those who take the Greyhound arrive on time. So look, smash the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. Smash it. Allow notifications on your Android or iPhone. Tell your friends, your neighbors. You'll get this link that you get from us every day. A lot of you, not all of you, but a lot of you do, off of a text thing that I have, a stream. If I forget to send it to you one day, the link works every day for Sidelines. We're here to talk SEC.
Facebook, so Brendan, YouTube, you name it. Get your pen and paper.
Yep, handy. Write down our address. What's the website? Sidelines.live. All of our sponsors are there. Great sponsors like Chad House, ECS House Industries. It is planting season, people. They make all the equipment, high tech for farming, for agriculture, houseindustriesinc.com, and they make the aerators for the catfish farms. Hey, a lot of sports to talk about. You see that map behind me? We're going to get into it right after this.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, man, Sidelines, what we pride ourselves on is we start off it's like living in the median on the interstate. Think about it. You got to pull out of your driveway doing about 110. We got Coach Matt Dean. Let me tell you something. We're talking about that campus. I was over there a couple of weeks ago doing that wild game cookout at the Sigma Newhouse. Great group of kids over there. You were doing the baseball doubleheader that day. They were bringing all the teams, like you said. Nebraska, Texas A&M, Houston had the big motorcycle escorts coming in to practice over there. It is your time of the year. You're also very proud of your Iowa Hawkeyes. And Caitlin Clark, is she going to be the new standard going forward? The DVD or whatever that she does, the textbook about how to shoot a basketball. My God. And where is she from? She's an in-state girl, isn't she?
Good morning, guys. It's good to be back on. Yes, West Des Moines Dowling Catholic High School in Des Moines, Iowa.
Catholic High School? Of course. The name of the Padre and the Madre de Voto. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, honestly, she was a 5-star out of high school. Widely sought after, but stayed with the home state. And she kind of reminds you of Steph Curry at times, guys. I mean, she's got that incredible range.
Yeah.
I believe she was 9 of 18 from 3 against LSU, had 41 points, maybe 12 assists, 7 rebounds, and 9 threes. I mean, I think that's kind of filling up the stat sheet. And then, honestly, I'm not to go after Coach Mulkey, but I didn't see much adjustment in her game plan on the defensive side. They said we're going to guard you straight up. Now I think Gino and UConn will do a little bit different scheme in the Final Four. I think that's a tough matchup for them. But right now, in the women's side, it's South Carolina's to lose. They're the gold standard, undefeated. I would love to see an Iowa-South Carolina final, but I think the Iowa-UConn game is going to be a big test for my Lady Hawkeyes.
That's enough of a pill to swallow. Yeah, you're right. Matt, this is an awesome time of year. We've got the Final Four this weekend for the men and the women. Let's look first at, I think one of the best stories out there is in NC State's run. And I got to listen Sunday to NC State and Duke radio broadcast. There was a cool I found it streaming on the web, and I was listening to it while I was hiking on the St. Francis River. I had to get outside, wound up to watch this on TV. NC State, paint the bell tower red. DJ Burns is a guy who just he's a taller version of Charles Barkley, but there's also DJ Horn. There's some other guys on that team that are pretty damn good. But 2 games, they lost the last 2 games of the season, regular season. They had to win the ACC tournament. They came through. They've been living on the edge. Every game is an elimination game. The more of those close games you win, that makes you a better team, doesn't it?
It does, and it's amazing. Watching them play now, guys, I don't know how you guys feel, but I can't believe this team lost 14 games. So
yeah,
I
can't either.
I don't know the whole story. I don't follow the ACC basketball like our one guy does. That his name is at a loss for me right now. Our ACC.
Tommy,
Tommy
Kane.
He would know everything about this. But I will tell you, when you win some games like they did, I mean, look at the Virginia game in the semifinals of the ACC. Virginia misses their best foul shooter, misses a free throw that would have pretty much iced the game. They come down and bank a 3 at the buzzer.
Yeah,
and they win that game. They go to the finals. They win that game. And then the other night, I watched that first half. It was 27-21. They scored 21 points in the first half against Duke, and they just looked terrible offensively. And the second half, they couldn't miss a shot at times, and Duke really looked Duke looked like the higher seed. I mean, the low seed. You know, and it was surprising to me that Duke. And let's face it. I think a couple things. Duke caught a break against Houston when Jamal Shead got hurt. 13 minutes of that game. That's their All-American, their best defender, their best playmaker, their clutch player, and they still had a 3 in the last seconds to send that game to overtime. I felt like NC State had beaten them prior. They could play with Duke. I felt that way. Now the question is, how does DJ Burns, the bigger version of Chuck, as you mentioned, how does he match up against Zach Edey, who honestly had a monster game against the Vols? And first time I probably watched Purdue for 40 straight minutes of basketball.
Yeah.
I thought their guard play was better than I thought, guys. I got to give them credit. Braden Smith got downhill a lot on the high ball screen action. And when Tennessee went underneath and tried to help, he made some passes to Edey. It was 63-60, and there was a big kick out for a big 3 by a Purdue guard that made it a 6-point game in the last 2 minutes that I really thought kind of broke the back of the Vols. But I will tell you, Dalton Knecht sold me on being a pro after watching that game. Big time. And the Vols had a lot of open looks. Zakai had a lot of open looks that he didn't make. I just think the Vols didn't have that extra offensive player they needed to support Dalton. But it was a great game. But I think we're all looking at, my opinion, UConn is going to be impossible to beat. Now, 2 weeks ago, I told you guys that Auburn was going to beat UConn in the Sweet 16, Rob, and I jinxed your Tigers. They lost in the first round to Yale, but I really like their matchup. Now, intriguingly, I think Alabama may have a better shot to beat UConn than Purdue or NC State because of their style of play.
Yeah.
Alabama, man, in the second half in the Elite Eight, they just got going. They got going. And Sears was tremendous. I thought the young man, I think it's Pringle inside, did a great job. Ironically, the game before, the North Dakota transfer, Jensen was tremendous against North Carolina, right?
Nelson.
Nelson, I'm sorry.
Grant Nelson, What is he from, South Dakota State or North Dakota State?
I think he played at North Dakota until he transferred to Bama, I think. So right now, it's still UConn's tournament, I think, to win. But I do think Alabama poses an interesting threat because, Dan Hurley's a defensive guy. they're going to have to come out and guard that three.
Yeah. Well, Zach Edey is a guy that's been around a long time, and he's just, and I keep comparing this matchup as he's Drago in the Rocky movie, and Burns and NC State are Rocky Balboa. Everybody they just find reasons to not like Zach Edey. He is he's one of those guys. He's kind of like Biff in Back to the Future. And that's who he reminds me of. But I will say this, NC State's coach, he got a 2-year contract extension. Apparently, if they win the ACC tournament, he automatically gets a 2-year extension. So he got that. And hell, for all we know, next year they could struggle again. They hadn't been to the Final Four since 1983.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe. And that at that time was their second national championship in 9 seasons. All right, so looking at the Vitamin Shop, folks, Olive Branch in Oxford, Mississippi, open Monday through Saturday, 9:30 a.m. till 8 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays, actually, 10:30 a.m., 7 p.m. Go in there. They got people that actually know what they're doing. They'll sell you the products that you need. I buy shot blocks and goo. We buy the probiotics there. They've got, muscle milk shakes. They've got recovery drinks. I'm going to tell you what, as important as the workout is, equally as important is your recovery. Called the equal and opposite reaction. It's a chain reaction. So go to the Vitamin Shop, support them. Proud to have them as a sponsor. And Matt, looking at UConn, Alabama, North Carolina, and what's really weird, Hubert Davis is a good coach. Last year, though, they didn't make the tournament. His first year there, they made the Final Four. This year, got to Sweet 16. They got into a track meet. Alabama got them to play the way Alabama likes to play. A lot of people, Dave Tompkins on our show, one of our members, talks about Nate Oates is a systems coach. You get him into a lot of X's and O's and strategizing and adjusting on the fly. He doesn't really like that much, but he had enough to beat North Carolina. He had enough to beat Brad Brownell and Clemson. Clemson's pretty damn good.
They are.
So, this Bama team, in my opinion, is way better than last year's number 1 overall seed with Brandon Miller.
I heard something, guys, and I don't want to, I'm not going to give this any attribution to who said it. Yeah. But because Memphis got the other guard transfer from Alabama. It was
Javon Quinterly. Yeah.
And I heard something where Oates was really happy having Sears back because he didn't have to beg Quinterly to guard anymore. Okay. And I don't know. I don't know if that's where I heard that from, but you can just see the chemistry in this Bama team. And I got to tell you, when you have a team, it's a little bit like the old Loyola Marymount team back in the days with Hank Gathers, God rest his soul, and Bo Kimball.
Yeah.
When you're able to put over 100 points on the board in certain times, not every game, and you got that kind of perimeter game, it's either feast or famine. You're either going to get blown out because UConn's going to defend the three, they're going to pound it inside on you. UConn went on a 30-0 run against Illinois, who's a very, very good basketball team. Okay. Yeah. Or you're going to make those shots, you're going to stay in the game, and the longer you stay in the game, the greater chance you have to win the game. Okay. So it's really contrasting styles. I do think Bama does a great job of controlling pace, but I think that's UConn's strength defensively. They're going to have Stephon Castle out there pressuring the ball. They're going to turn them over some. They're going to force Bama into situations where they're going to take some shots late in the shot clock, which helps them control pace. I still favor UConn, obviously, this game. It would not shock me, though, if this game is closer than people anticipate.
Well, UConn has had a 30-point lead over every opponent up to this point. That's powerful stuff. Yeah. And when you do that, you're just accustomed to just stomping people. And Dan Hurley, a really good article I read on 24/7 Sports this week about the relationship from high school with Nate Oates up in Michigan, yeah. Romulus High School. What a great name. Romulus. Sounds like Greek mythology. And one of his players, E.C. Matthews, going to Rhode Island when Dan Hurley was up there coaching. That coaching tree, again, thumbs up to the great Catholic school system around the world. Also, St. Anthony's up in New Jersey, where their dad coached for 45, 48 years, Danny, Bobby Hurley. So they know each other. He helped him get into coaching, but I don't think he offered him a job. It wasn't it was just like, it wouldn't be a good fit because we've already got a guy who came from that Michigan area for recruiting. But I imagine they're friends. And tonight, to me, there's nothing more fun than competing against your friends. Some people don't like it. I think it's going to be a fun matchup, Matt. Now, you're a coach. Was your dad a coach or your mother, either one of them a coach?
No, it's funny you say that because my dad was a factory worker.
Yeah.
But I think that really helped me instill some of the things that really were core values to me, like, a day's work.
Yeah.
Work ethic. It's never over. I mean, the mentality that you play a full 40 minutes. And that's one of the things we always talked about, guys, in the locker room, was just it's a 40-minute game. And so you see it often. How many times you see someone gets up really big and you think, oh, game's over. We're in good shape. And you relax. And if you can do one thing with your team, if you can instill just that every possession matters mentality, and you can get them to play for 40 minutes, in many regards, you're never out of a game. And I'm just telling you, I had a 2.5-year stretch here where my teams were 61-9, and 8 of our 9 losses were 4 points or less. And I'll tell you, none of those teams shot above 32% from three. What did we do? We defended the 3-point line. We held our own in rebound, but we always won turnover margin. Okay? We were top 5 in the nation in turnover margin. We had 10 more possessions a game than our opponents in 2013. Well, you know what that does? It takes a lot of pressure off your offense.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a greater percentage to shoot the ball. You're not giving up easy offense. You're not looking back there watching someone, in our game they weren't dunking on us, but you know what I'm saying, giving up layups. And I just think when you have that mentality and you build your team around some defensive principles, it was easy, guys. Play hard, play smart, play together. It encompasses everything in a 40-minute spectrum of a basketball. If we're going to play hard, we have a chance to guard. If we're going to play smart, there's a great chance that we're not going to turn over a lot. And if we play together, we're going to share the ball. We're going to get easy opportunities to score on good shots. So, I think Hurley, legendary father. And how great is it to be, Rob, if you have an architect question, I know who you call.
Yeah.
No
Ghostbusters.
What do you think, with Daniel Hurley and him and his brother Bobby, they just had such a great, you talk about that. What an unbelievable situation they had, with their dad.
Yeah. Well, and I like this, Rob Anderson. Your credibility is fun to listen to in basketball, Matt. Even if you're an occasional Bammer apologist like RB, I'm like, wait, me. Hey, you know what? Hey, here's the thing: we're not at all that, but you know what, Matt? I love what you said about hard work, because that's part of the Auburn creed, and I believe in hard work, and absolutely, you instill that. And those Hurley guys, their dad never went to college to take the big money. That's a blue-collar mentality, being a high school coach at a Catholic school in New Jersey all these years. Don't kid yourself. Those are tough people. They're tough as nails. And I like, Rob's asking a question real quick before we get on with some more stuff. And we're going to bring Bo Carter in as soon as he's ready. Are the Iowa girls going to win the whole thing? Rob said he's going to bet everything he has on Iowa per the recommendation of the man from up in Davenport, Iowa. And Bo Carter, welcome.
Rob, here's my thing. Rob Anderson, here's my thing. I am pulling. This is our one chance as a Hawkeye to win a national championship. Caitlin Clark's going to the WNBA. We will never see another Caitlin Clark at the University of Iowa, especially in NIL deals where everybody's leaving every other year. Caitlin has been loyal to her state. Now, she's on a lot of commercials herself, so I give her credit. They did a great job of making sure she stayed. I like their chances against UConn. I think South Carolina's a different beast. You know, if you watch the LSU game, LSU stayed in the game because of their ability to rebound the basketball. And that's the thing about South Carolina. They're just relentless. Dawn Staley is the best coach in America. You talk about hard work and toughness. Dawn Staley exemplifies that. So I still have South Carolina as the favorite. But if this is going to be the time, and also a shout out to Wes Moore, the head coach at NC State. You know, I met Wes a long time ago as a young coach. He did a great job at Chattanooga. He's been different stops. Wes Moore is a phenomenal basketball coach at North Carolina State, and he will have a game plan ready. The Wolfpack, the Lady Wolfpack, you know, North Carolina State has the men's team in there, Rob. It's a Cinderella story.
It's a double Final Four. How often does that happen? Maybe with UConn.
Not very. Bo would know that answer.
It's happening
not very often, I'm telling you.
It's happening with UConn.
Yep. Yeah.
Which is the
and NC State. How often does it happen twice in the same year?
That's what I'm saying. It's NC State and UConn. Bo Carter, man, love having you on here. The wise man, the great orator out in Dallas, Fort Worth, and appreciate everything you're doing for Will. Bo's why you love to build relationships with good people, and when people call on you for something or you call on them, that's what I love. We got a great team and a great network of people, and we have an incredible executive producer, Brendan Martin, who's looking at all these algorithms and stuff while we're doing this. And I know what he's doing because I've learned now. And he says, when I'm looking down, I'm making sure bandwidth is working and all. Bo Carter, yeah, you're right. Sad news about Mike Colon, Captain Crunch, Auburn linebacker, played at Berry High School in Birmingham, Alabama. Later lived in Montgomery. He was a member of the only undefeated team in NFL history. He won Super Bowls as a linebacker, as a 12th round draft pick for the Miami Dolphins in 72 and 73. Mike, Captain Crunch, Colon, rest in peace, Mike. You will live on forever. And again, being part of something that special, Philip Marshall wrote a great story about him. Auburn. I absolutely love Philip Marshall, the son of Benny Marshall, legendary sports writer, former editor of the Birmingham News. Philip just gets it. You know, you might be pissed off after a loss, guys, and saying something about your team or a coach, and Philip's the kind of guy he's so grounded, he'll say, I know that man well. He's a good man. And it makes you think about the way you react. And so does Bo Carter, and so does when Buddy Martin's on here. I can promise you that. But Mike Colon will be missed. His good friend Bob Lockamy took him to lunch every day in Birmingham. And Mike lost his wife, I believe, in the fall of 21. Unbelievable husband, incredible man, lived his life, as Philip Marshall said, the right way. And I've got the book, Undefeated, the story of the 72 Dolphins, the only undefeated team in history. That is so hard. Bo Carter, your stories right now. You've been to one or two Final Fours probably in your day. How much pressure? What's the buildup like right now? And Gary Harris from Tuscaloosa, Tide 100.9, is going to join us in about 7 or 8 minutes. It's going to be fun to get his perspective. But talk about the media feeding frenzy. And with what the women got, 12.5 million views Monday night. Buck Wade, one of our viewers down in Florida, love this guy, said that's more than 3 of the NBA final games last year. Women's basketball doesn't need an assist. It stands on its own now. But let's talk about this big weekend, Bo.
No, and Matt's been
round
there.
up.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, Matt, great to see you this morning. Matt's been there for the coaches' conventions. They're always at the Final Four. In fact, they one year had a little scalp. Well, it probably happened before, but a couple of coaches had to spend a night in the Slammer for scalping tickets for the Final Four. I think they all get a chance to buy 1 or 2 tickets. Be that as it may, one of the most interesting one, greatest one, 30-year anniversary this year, the 1994. Matt remembers this one in Charlotte. Duke was playing Arkansas.
Yep.
Very heavily favored. Bill Clinton decides to come down to watch the ball game. We got 8,000 Secret Service agents screening everybody.
God.
They were talking
Holy
about some of the NCAA people got frisked about 5 times going back to get a Coke or soft drink in the media room back there. But Nolan Richardson pulled it, and I've never seen a place, the crowd's probably 90% Duke fans, and just a total shock after Arkansas knocked them off. And first guy on the court, Bill Clinton, walks out with a couple of Secret Service and shakes hands with Nolan Richardson. So it was really kind of a apocalyptic win there. But there been so many great ones, the buzzer beater that almost went in for Butler a few years ago. Think about Milan and Bobby Plump and the Butler Bulldogs. And it's just, San Diego State and Miami making it, and last year it's St. Peter's. There's just so many great. All the stories coming out of this thing, and the teams. Matt knows this too. The NC State men and women are sort of the Cinderella teams. They're just like playing loose and easy out there. Hey, they've got nothing to lose, and they might just pull the thing off. You never know.
But playing with house money is the term you hear a lot, and this is what you love about this time of year. These stories and pressure. Bo Carter, you think about the coach, Keats, for NC State. He was walking the green mile, and then they go win the ACC tournament. Love to watch SEC Network ramp up that basketball coverage, because ACC Network, it's unbelievable. You just step back in time, the tradition, Tobacco Road, all those schools. It's just so much fun to watch. Bo, what's the hardest part for you covering this? You cover so many things. You write about them. Where do you start if you're writing a story going into this weekend about Alabama and UConn?
Well, and then
what's the lead on that story?
First time for Alabama ever to be in the NCAA Final Four, which is pretty amazing. And so, I'm thinking about the NIT.
John Turner and Jack Turner are watching. Just watching.
They're going to shoot me for that, but no. You think about Leon Douglas and all the NBA players they had. They were so close, 3 or 4 times. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think Alabama was like 1-8 or something in Elite 8 games prior to this year. So. Give Nate Oates a really good. In the SEC's loaded every year. There's no doubt about it. It's Auburn's, a Final Four potential team, or Kentucky every single year. So just to be able to survive the SEC and get out of there and play the kind of teams, knock off North Carolina in a regional. It's really. The Alabama people just have to be flying on cloud 9 right now.
Yeah, Matt Dean, along that line. UConn, Alabama. I'm putting you in a suit, courtside. You're doing the game for TBS, TNT, CBS, whatever alphabet combination they can come up with, because there's so many networks. By the way, when you stream like we do, it's all up at the top of the screen. You should explain to your 95-year-old dad like I do. Boy, where's the damn game? I can't find it. So, you go to TNT, CBS, speak English to me. But I'm putting you at courtside right now. Let's go down on the court to Coach Matt Dean, this Alabama-UConn matchup. What stands out to you? Why is Alabama going to win this game?
Well, I think 2 things. If I'm an Alabama fan, if I'm going to sell Alabama to Bo, one of the things we're going to have to control pace, which means we're going to have to get down the floor and we're going to have to take shots that are open early in our offense. Okay. Early offense is important because in Connecticut, later in the shot sequence, you're not going to get a good shot. Okay. Now, that being said, you better make a decent percent of those shots, because if you look at the Illinois game, think about this stat, Bo. UConn won by 25, and as a team, they were 3 of 17 from 3. I'm talking about UConn. Okay? 3 of 17 from 3, and Illinois made 6 threes. They were only 6 of 23. So UConn, they defend the 3. They don't shoot it that well, but you can't stop them inside, and they can guard you in any action. So if I'm Alabama, the one kryptonite that I can provide towards them is the ability to shoot the 3 ball, because I'm going to extend them out. And sometimes Alabama has the ability to have their big men play closer to the line, I bring Klingon out in the floor, and then I attack the rim or shoot threes. But I got to make a high percentage. Alabama's going to have to make at least 15 threes and shoot at least 35 to 40% from three at Bo to have a chance. That's my opinion.
I agree too. And the interesting thing about this one too, and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, think about some of the 7 foot. You got 7'4" Zach Edey in there and 7'2" Klingon. It's going to be the big. And Edey just killed Tennessee. They had no answer. And I saw Rick Barnes the other day said that he thought the officials protected him a little bit, but that guy's so big. I mean, he just sort of has his own way. Plus, I'm looking forward to seeing Burns Jr. of NC State. That guy, he's like a taller version of Charles Barkley. Reminds me, sort of. So
yeah, that's what I've been calling him. Yeah,
Against Clemson, to Bo's point, Alabama was 16 of 36 from three. That's 44%. That's like shooting 24 of 36 from two. That's incredible. If Alabama, and then still in that Clemson game, they did that, and the game wasn't over until the final 45 seconds. I mean, Clemson was in our gym 3 times 2 weeks ago for the regional in Memphis. Really well coached, and love the way they play old school high-low basketball. They had a good plan. It's just Alabama got hot. Alabama's going to have to get hot. But to Bo's point about Edey and UConn, what a matchup that would be. If we get – I think Hurley is not saying much, but he hopes so much he's pulling to play Purdue, because I think in his mind they're gonna tear him up. I really do. That's Hurley's mentality. We're not worried about it. We're going to go right after the guy. That's his mentality.
Yeah, they're tough. They are really tough. And Zach Edey, Jimmy told me yesterday. I was talking to Jimmy Hodge, and he said Zach Edey's first move. What's different about him is he puts the ball down about below his hip before he shoots. He doesn't put it on the ground, which any coach will tell you. You're the tallest guy on the court. What are you doing putting the ball on the ground near the basket? But he puts it down low, and the little guys can go in there and try and strip it away from him. So that's a fun one. Gary Harris is on with us right now. 7'4", 7'2". Gary is 7'6" right now. He is jacked up. Alabama going to the Final Four. And I got to tell you, this game against UConn, and Rodney asked me Tuesday, hey, what do you think? I said, hey, and I'm for the SEC. I'm not one of these people, if my school's not in there, to hell with it. Then you've got no conference. This is the SEC's best and only shot to win it all. Nate Oates, last year Alabama was the number 1 seed overall. You did a great job of reaching out to people in San Diego, which is what real local reporters do that cover a team. They're like real trial lawyers that fight it out in court. And you told us a lot of things about San Diego State last year. Now, I guarantee you, Gary, you've reached out to Storrs, Connecticut, and places up in the Northeast, everything you can find out about UConn. Let's get your story. Alabama versus UConn this Saturday night at about 8 or 9 o'clock on the Color TV.
Well, I only do one bracket. I don't like doing multiple brackets. I told you last week I had Alabama going to the Final Four and playing Connecticut, and I have Purdue and I think Houston in the other bracket. And so the only one I missed out on was NC State. So I've still got an excellent chance to have the winner. I just liked Alabama's draw. I thought, Grand Canyon was a good team, but I if you'd have told Alabama fans before the season that you'd be in the NCAA tournament and that your draw to get to the Sweet 16 was going to be Charleston and Grand Canyon, they'd have taken it and probably said, well, they're, a 1 or 2 seed just based on name recognition to play those two teams. And then once they got to the Sweet 16, I liked the matchup against North Carolina and against Clemson. They'd already played Clemson. Now, it's different. And I think Alabama's going to play well. I think they're going to play hard. I think they're going to challenge UConn in a way that they haven't been challenged in this tournament. But I think UConn's the best team in the country, and I'm going to pick them in my bracket. I'm going to stay with them. talking to some people that cover them, it's just, they score from all three levels. They'd score in the low post, they'd score in the mid-range, and score from the three-point line. They're very good defensively. When they want to slow it down and play a half-court game, they can, but they can run with teams as well. I mean, they've just got everything that you look for in a championship caliber team, extremely well coached. I think it's been a great year for Alabama. They broke through finally and got to the Final Four. Rob, you and I have talked about the number of teams that I thought were Final Four caliber from Alabama that didn't make it. And quite frankly, on paper, I didn't think this was a Final Four team. But that's the great thing about it. Sometimes Alabama was the number 1 overall seed last year and didn't make it. And this year they were a 4 seed. It was a good team, but a little bit up and down, didn't always guard people. But they got hot at the right time. They made the plays down the stretch in close games in the tournament, and they got here. But I think their run comes to an end on Saturday night. The good news about it is to make the Final Four for the first time is, you're a champion in your own right. You won the West region. You'll hang a banner. And I don't think this is going to be Nate Oates' only trip. I think people that are in the SEC are going to have to get used to this. I mean, I think this guy is, I've told you this too, Rob. I think he's the perfect coach for the modern game. He understands roster management. He has no problem going out to hit the portal, rolling it over. I saw Noah Clowney last night, had 20 points, 12 rebounds, and I think 3 or 4 blocks. He's 19 years old still. That was a guy they brought in last year with the anticipation that he'd play 2 or 3 years here, and he left after 1. So I think Alabama's in really, really good shape, but I don't think they've got enough to beat this UConn team on Saturday night.
Yeah, Matt Dean, throw the question here. You're talking about UConn. They score on all 3 levels. Kind of break that down for the simpletons who are out there listening in Simpletown, USA, where the local newspaper is only $1 a year, and they deliver the milk to your doorstep, and people still respect the college dean. Matt Dean, I'm talking about.
Well, one of the things, if I'm trying to provide some hope for Bama fans, I go back to I look at games where UConn struggled, and I go to the Creighton, who made the Sweet 16, very good team. They beat UConn in late February, 85-66. Here's what's interesting about the box score. Creighton went 14 of 28 from 3. UConn went 3 of 16 for 3. So I would argue that, UConn can score at all 3 levels, but as a coach, I wouldn't be afraid to triangle into them. I would try to focus on protecting the rim, guard their best 2 shooters, make them make mid-range jump shots. I don't think they're an elite 3-point shooting team. Yeah, they can make threes, but they were, like we said, 3 of 17 against Illinois. In their loss to Creighton, they were 3 of 16 from 3. Creighton made 14 threes. Alabama made 16 threes in their Elite 8 win. So you're going to extend that defense. The pressure a team like Alabama puts on perimeter defense, as a former coach myself, it's a lot of pressure. And if Alabama gets hot like it did in the second half against Clemson, as Gary said, it's going to be a heck of a game, I think. But, here's the thing. UConn will guard the 3. They'll make it difficult. And if they're not making threes, it's going to be tough because there's going to have a big mismatch inside for UConn, in my opinion.
Gary Harris, and this is a question that Bo Carter just texted me to ask you, and Matt too. What's the over and under on the number of times Bill Raftery will say onions in the UConn-Alabama game?
Oh, my gosh. Oh, Lord. That's some prep that I haven't gotten around to.
Come on.
Can I set it at 6 for me? Half dozen?
Yeah, at least a half dozen. But that's a cool way of looking at it. And Bo Carter, Matt, y'all jump in. I mean, anybody. This is so cool, though, for the state of Alabama. And again, Auburn, Alabama people, listen, we're all Auburn and Alabama fans. We're all married to each other. We live with each other. We work together. I got to tell you, the Alabama people are excited. And like you said, they made it to the Final Four. That's such a huge deal. It's not like in football at Alabama, okay, you're expected to make the playoff. Now you've made it to the Final Four. Are you concerned that the lights on the stage will be a distraction and UConn's like, hey, this is just another day at work? But at the same time, Alabama's coming in kind of playing loose with house money. UConn's trying to repeat. And since 1991-92 with Duke, 06-07 with Florida, it doesn't happen very often for a reason, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't. And UConn has still got 2 big games to win to get there. They're not there by any means. And even if they get past Alabama, they've got one more. No, I don't think the stage will be too big for Alabama. I don't think they're happy to be there. I don't think that, any of that's going on. If they lose the game, I think it's because UConn played better, because I think Alabama's going to play well. Like Matt said, I think Alabama, with what they're able to do with the 3-point shots, and I agree with what he said in terms of Alabama's defensive game plan. Alabama can win this game. I'm not saying that they can't. I'm just saying that my prediction is that they won't.
Right.
But I think that they can, and I think that they'll be ready to go. They'll play hard. Just being happy to be there. I don't think any of these 4 teams, Alabama has never been. Purdue hadn't been since Gene Cady and Joe Barry Carroll in 1980, and NC State hadn't been since the Valvano, Lorenzo Charles team, Thurl Bailey and Wittenberg and Sidney Lowe and those guys in 83. So it's hard to get to the Final Four, for one. And you're right, UConn, Jim Calhoun, that had been a good program, and then he turned it into an elite program. And now in the last 30 years or so, they're as good as anybody. But my point was, if Alabama doesn't win this game, I think that there'll still be appreciation by the fan base for what they did. And if UConn doesn't win it, you know what? It's a missed opportunity. There is pressure on UConn that isn't on Alabama, because for UConn, anything short now of winning the national championship is probably going to be a disappointment. That's not the case for Alabama. So I do think Alabama will play loose. I also think this. I think UConn is not a bully team, but they're intimidating to play. Clean on inside and all the different players that they have. Hurley is a little bit combative, but because he and Nate Oates are such good friends, I think that loosens Alabama up a little bit too. I don't think that I think Alabama will be relaxed because Oates and Hurley are such good friends, and there won't be that aura of, oh my gosh, we're playing UConn. So I think it's going to be a really good game. I just think in the end, UConn will have a little too much.
Bo Carter, jump in here.
Rob, was going to say, you got the Muscle Shoals, Alabama, Quad Cities influence with Sears, who was he was too good to stay at famous Muscle Shoals High. He went to one of the basketball academies, as Matt remembers. And the freshman from Richardson High has really done a great job. He's one of the great plucked that kid right out from under Texas and Oklahoma and several of the schools out here's knows. And that guy is really he made some big threes for him in the the regional. So I mean. I agree with Gary. They are play, and Rob, you said they're playing with house money, and they're very athletic. One of the most athletic teams I've ever seen it. Obviously, at Alabama. So it's I'm really excited about Saturday and Monday.
You know what's really crazy, Gary? A little bird put something in my ear last night. IMG Sports Academy down in Bradenton, Florida, is looking possibly to make a move to the soon-to-be vacant campus of Birmingham Southern College, which closes at the end of this semester. I'm hearing that they are looking possibly at the Birmingham Southern campus. Would that not be crazy? That'd be like having Oak Hill Academy in Mouth of Wilson, Virginia, right next to you. This game, Gary, the significance, 9 schools in the state of Alabama have been to the NCAA tournament. The state of Alabama in football is already, what else can you say? It's special. But in basketball, they're doing it now. Gary, Wimp Sanderson had a lot of great teams. And, they never got to the Final Four. They damn near beat Indiana in 76. They almost beat them then. They've got a lot of tradition.
Yeah, it's one thing that, you look at Alabama and the opportunities that they had, and you're right, in 76, that was before they seeded them. It was based on geographical region, and they played North Carolina the game before, and with Phil Ford and Tom Lagarde, and Alabama absolutely wiped the floor with them. Anthony Murray held forward to 2 points in that game, and then they ran into Indiana and Baton Rouge. I think the North Carolina game was in Dayton, Ohio. If they're in any other region, they go to the Final Four. And Bob Knight said that was the toughest game they had all year. They were, could have won. There was a very controversial block charge call with Leon Douglas. by Booker Washington that kind of turned that tide. And Alabama had some other, Wimp had, all the Sweet 16s. I think he went to 6 of them. One thing that hurt Alabama in those days, it hurt a lot of SEC teams outside of a pocket of Kentucky and maybe LSU when they were really rolling.
Yeah. Gary,
it's the same. So my point is, teams that might have finished, let's say, 3rd in the SEC in the regular season. At this one they had the double round robin. They might have gone 10-8 or 11-7, and then won the SEC tournament, which did a lot. And they get an 8 seed or a 7 seed or a 9 seed, and really had some tough draws.
Yeah, that's so cool. The geographical matchups, Gary, is getting to play teams close to you,
and still got a 4. Yeah, they got a 4 seed. So the way the SEC is perceived now is completely different than it was in the 70s and the 80s and even into the 90s, and that helps these teams in the conference. You get more teams in, you get better seeds. So Alabama's in a much better position now. Sanderson.
Yeah. Well,
a lot of times they ran into a hot team or a tough draw, and this year Alabama was the hot team. I think I'm breaking up on you guys some.
Yeah, you're back with us now. Matt Dean, jump back in here along the lines. And Matt, do you know the nickname of Reginald
going
King?
Into the station here in a minute.
Okay, one of the best players Alabama's ever had, Reginald King. Remember what his nickname was?
I do not.
The Mule.
Mule
King. I love it. Mule King.
King.
Yeah, he was
Reginald
great.
Mule King. And Winifred, I thought it was Winifred E. Wimp Sanderson. What's his actual first name?
Winfrey.
It's Winfrey.
It's Winfrey.
Yeah. Like Buddy Martin's first name, and of course his son's right here with it. I think it's Wilton. I love these old Southern names like that. Wilton. Of course, my grandfather's name was Greenfield, and his brother's name was Cadwallader. Man, that'll get you thrown in the bushes head first every day. All right, Matt Dean, jump back in here as Gary walks into the studio. WVUA TV, Channel 23 in Tuscaloosa and Tide 100.9. And guys, we're building this SEC Sidelines Sports Network and SECU. And as Gary walks in, I just wanted to get that in. Follow us. Tell your friends, your family, your neighbors about us. But, Matt, jump back in here with some stuff for Gary as he walks in on the Capstone's campus.
Well, I think bottom line, I think it benefited Alabama, and I think it benefited Tennessee. The competition in the SEC this year prepared both those teams to make deep runs in the NCAA tournament. And I want to go back a little bit to the Purdue-Tennessee game for a quick second. My sons, who are both Tennessee fans, said, how would you deal Purdue? I said, hey, I'd let Edie score 40 and I guard everyone else. And it almost worked for Tennessee.
It did.
It's a tough matchup. They guarded the perimeter real tough on Purdue. They're a great shooting team. And honestly, I think that's what gives me hope for Alabama is Hurley's got to be thinking, how do I stop these guys? He's got to extend his defense. And sometimes with that step back 3, Sears made some incredibly difficult shots in the second half. He got so hot. I think it's going to be fun. And I'm really not just to be an SEC homer, but I'm pulling hard for the Tide because honestly, that would be huge. And I go back to 1980. I'm an Iowa Hawkeye fan, guys. We went to the Final Four. We were playing nose to nose with Louisville, and Ronnie Lester, our point guard, got hurt 10 minutes in the first half, and we haven't been back since. It's hard to get there.
It is.
Thing to do, and like you said, Bama's there. Why not win the whole damn thing?
Yeah, you know what? The most important 6 inches is between your ears. Gary Harris, you're in the studios there in Tuscaloosa. You heard what Matt just said. I thought it was cool about just stay on Zach Edey. Let him score 40 points, but guard everybody else.
Who cares? Right.
Yeah, that's thinking outside the box, Gary Harris.
Well, yeah, I think the thought process is he's going to get his. And the only thing I'll say with Edey is it would be nice to see, and I understand he's got a great ability to step his foot out. But there's 3 seconds is to just take it out of the game. Because they're not going to call it. So just take it out. I mean, why do we even have it? I mean, I haven't seen a 3 seconds called in this tournament. So just remove that, like make it like, the women's game and you can just get in there. And the other thing is he is a great player. I mean, he's just not just big. Obviously, he makes his free throws, but the foul disparity is alarming when you play against him. There's just no other way around it. I mean, your guys are going to get in foul trouble, and he's maybe going to get called for 1 or 2 fouls, which is hard to imagine that he could play that close to the basket, as big and physical as he is, and never foul anyone and draw fouls on the other team like crazy. So I'm kind of with Matt. He's going to get his. You just have to make sure that you don't let anybody else get high, because they got some other players that can score. Particularly, they got some perimeter shooters. So, that's probably a good way to look at it. Is just say, man, he's Edey. He's going to do what he does. We got to find a way to win the game with knowing that he's going to get 25 points and 14 or 15 rebounds and probably go to the free throw line, 13 or 14 times. And that's just the way it is when you play that team.
Yeah. Bo Carter, if UConn Cornelius was talking about Zach Edey, he would say, look at the bumble. Look what he can do. He can dunk the ball. The guy's a monster. And you talk about one of y'all just mentioned about Joe Barry Carroll and Gene Keady. In the history of comb-overs, no one will ever come close to him. And also those zip-up boots he wore. He's still at every Purdue game. It's been 44 years. I mean, Bo, you've been to a lot of Final Fours. I've been to it before. It's 12 rows off the court in Minneapolis in '92. It's bigger. Reality is stranger than fiction, isn't it? That's what it's like.
It really is. And interesting too, Rob. Gene Keady interviewed for the Mississippi State job along with Winfrey Wimp Sanderson.
Wow.
When
I didn't know
Kermit
that.
When Kermit Davis Sr. left in 1978 and 77, they hired Ron Green, the late Ron Green or whatever. I know Matt is familiar with him. So he had to come over going that day when he came in for the interview.
Bo, did Ron Green come from Murray State?
Yes. I coached Indiana State, played at Indiana State and coached a really great guy. We used to call him Captain Oreo. He always wanted to get a sponsorship deal with Oreo cookies.
Sounds like my dad.
Don't
Oreos.
ask me why, but he was enamored with Oreos.
So am I.
Yeah, I think everybody is. If you don't like Oreos, you're not an American.
Yeah, that's right. Jump in here, Matt Dean.
Well, one thing I also want to point out, Purdue was in the Final Four in 1980 with Iowa, right? People may not realize this. Their head coach was not Gene Keady at the time. It was Lee Rose.
Yes.
It was Lee Rose. That's absolutely right. Yeah, I'm glad you said
Purdue
that,
to the
Matt.
Final Four, also took UNC Charlotte, I believe.
He sure did.
Four, right?
It was absolutely Lee Rose. I'm glad
and
you
his
said
alma
that.
mater was Transylvania University.
Lee Rose.
In Lexington, KY.
Lee Rose and Lute Olson always reminded me of each other. I don't know why.
Right.
They just did.
Right, Gary.
I'm glad you pointed that out, Matt, because you're right. I said Gene Keady, but it was Lee Rose. I forgot about that. Yeah,
because Gene Keady is Purdue basketball, but the Final Four in 1980 was Lee Rose. So it's crazy.
And that's when you had very few games on ESPN. You had Wellington Gatherers and Jim Thacker, calling the few games that there were. But God, that was the first year after, of course, 1979, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, that Dick Enberg. That's what really got everybody just addicted, like cult-like following. But Gary Harris, Matt, I know you got to go. Matt, let people know real quick before you go how they can follow you. Always love having you on here. Great stuff as always. And go Hawkeyes. They're doing the hokey pokey in Iowa City.
It's always great to be with you guys. At Dino Hoops 44 or go to the Rhodes website, www.rhodeslinks.com. Guys, going to be a great weekend. Always a pleasure. And roll Tide and go Hawks.
Absolutely.
There you go. All right, Gary, you got Lee Rose. We forget that 1980. But what is significant is you followed it up. Joe Barry Carroll. God, that guy, think about. I mean, this is so big. Gary, when are you heading to Phoenix?
Well, that's the $1 million question, Rob, and I wish you hadn't even brought it up because I got to bug out here in just a minute, so I'll finish on this. I'm not going to wind up getting to go because I had planned to go, as I told you last week, and then but I had I can't go by myself to do all the work that would be required. So when we got the cost analysis, because the university with WVUA 23 being owned by the university. We have to go through a university travel agency. There's just different things that go into it. And it was, and I don't want to give the amount, but for Stu and I to go out there to fly out this morning, which is when we were planning to fly out, come back on Tuesday, it was going to cost more than they felt like we could afford to pay based on what we were going to get back in terms of ad revenue. You know how it works in this day and age. So they put the kibosh on it, and I thought about flying out there on my own dime. But if I did that, then I wanted to be able to go and do what I wanted to do. But, as a sports director, I couldn't with good conscience go out there and not work. So I'd said, well, I'm not going to pay to go out there and cover this event and pay them to go. So not going to get to go. Now, I do have, you know how this works these days. You have freelancers that cover these tournaments that are so I've got somebody out there. Yeah. They've got our mic flag. They're going to do coverage for us and be there. But I'm not going to get to go. And and clearly I'm disappointed. But the reality of where we're at in the TV business in this day and age, even when you're owned by the university, we're still a standalone auxiliary. We have a budget, and it just wasn't in the budget to go. So there you have it.
Well, you'll still be putting out great coverage.
Oh yeah, and like I said, we've got somebody out there that's going to provide coverage for us. It's more for me on a personal note, just being, I'd always said if Alabama ever made it to a Final Four, I would be there, and I'm not, but. Anyway, it is what it is. But hey, man, I'm sorry.
Let them know how they can follow you. Yeah, no, you got to go
out. Yeah, it's at Gary Harris _WVUA on Twitter. Gary Harris WVUA Facebook page has really taken off. I've got I think 6,000 or 7,000 followers on that, and always putting out content. And Tide109.com, WVUA23.com, and I'm off to do my own show. Thanks, guys.
Hey, we're pulling for you. Thank you so much, Gary Harris. Here's a question from one of our viewers was. Repeat that, please. Who is looking at relocating to Birmingham? I just was told last night by someone that IMG Sports Academy might be looking at the soon-to-be vacant campus at Birmingham Southern College over there in right next to the old Gray Lady Legion Field. So IMG Sports Academy currently in Bradenton, Florida, and I think it was sold to the Chinese. Some business group recently for $1.25 billion. Nick Bollettieri started that as a tennis academy, remember? And, man, I tell you what, a lot of these young tennis players, they can teach you to be a complete narcissistic brat quicker than anything at a place like, that. It's unreal. But IMG, they do some good work. I just don't like it when guys or girls leave their team and go away. Put your faith in the coaches. And, you never hear about people being real close with who they went to IMG with, but that's nothing I can control. I'm just, you know what? I was told yesterday, my son said, it's easier to fool a man than it is to convince a man he's been fooled. Words of wisdom. Bo Carter. This has been great stuff. John Hartwell's out on a donor presentation today. That's kind of a part of the job of being an athletic director is bring in the money. I get that. So heading into this weekend, I mean, again, this is really big. And, Monday night, about 11 or 12 o'clock Eastern or later, the national championship will be over. Tuesday morning, we'll talk about it. And then we're putting our foot on the gas, putting it in sixth gear. And we're going to be talking a lot of college football, college baseball. We'll talk basketball, but that's the difference. You ever notice when basketball's over, it's over. Football, the debate never ends, does it?
It really is. Yeah, and you've got UFL or something going on, arena football. If there's a
arena ball,
pigskin, Brennan. If there's a pigskin floating around somewhere, Fox or ESPN or somebody, Big Ten Network or somebody. If Rob, you've seen this too. They'll replay a 1979 Michigan-Ohio State game on Big Ten Network 2 or 3 times a day. And boy, just so sad about the closing of Birmingham Southern. I just read about that. My brother went to Boise State there in 1970, and I guess they'll hope they don't turn into a parking lot for Legion Fields. What a wonderful college down there. You remember Joe Dean Jr. coaching there and being the AD? Yeah. And they were a powerhouse in the 20s and 30s in football too. They played, played SEC teams every year. So man, I'm just sorry. I read that, just reading a story a little while ago, Rob, young Boozer III, the old guy that was family had strong ties with Alabama, tried to get him a loan, and they were afraid that it was going to cost the state $30 million in taxpayers' money. So man, I tell you what, maybe Maybe some rich Methodist will come up with some money for us.
Yeah,
you gotta go for the Methodists, man.
That's right.
You gotta look out for us. We're strong with all this
Yes.
Catholic talk.
Well, you got to remember, you
always need a Methodist.
Yeah,
the Catholic Church
Keep
for the first
everything
1,500
okay.
years.
Yeah.
And then you had Martin
Live it
Luther and his 95 Theses in Bonn. And then you had, King Henry VIII in 1600 looked at his business card and said, oh, yeah, just look here. I'm the king. How about the Church of England? And then the Methodists came after the Anglicans. So all of them came from the church. But look, the Catholic schools and the Catholic school influence, you got to admit, Dan Hurley, if you, Bo, were interviewing Dan Hurley right now, would you ask him this question? And I'm going to throw it at you. How strong was that influence growing up in the Catholic schools, getting popped on the knuckles with a ruler by Sister Mary Frances, and disciplined?
You're Catholic and your abuse. I don't know, man. I can't, I don't even know how you guys claim to be a Catholic anymore. Just get reformed, dude. You guys were abused, okay?
No.
Completely, physically, mentally. I mean, I'm talking about the rest of it. I mean, sorry, you need a Methodist to have a glass of wine to calm you down. Just keep it in the road. You all are.
It is going to be interesting to see, though, if somebody does come along and bail out Birmingham Southern. But boy, if that's true, I was just told this by someone that IMG could possibly be looking to relocate to Birmingham on that campus. That would be ginormous, because then kids wouldn't have to worry about going way down to Bradenton, Florida, to IMG. But Bo, would you ask him how strong that influence was from St. Anthony's?
Yes, I certainly would. And speaking of that, too, a little sidetrack, Manhattan College is in really bad financial shape. Remember, that was where they invented the seventh inning stretch in the 1800s. Remember the brother who was in charge would have they'd make them sit in the stands the whole ball.
Yeah.
And then he'd say, okay, seventh inning, stand up and stretch. Then you're back to sitting down and watching the Jaspers play or whatever. So
I never knew that.
No, it's just Brendan's probably heard that story, but it's gosh, a tough time for private colleges. The enrollment figures are going down all over the place. You had COVID, man. It's a confluence of a lot of factors. So maybe Warren Buffett or Bill Gates can come up with throw a check at him or something. You never know. But
my God.
And I started to digress, but no, if I were talking to Dan Hurley, I'd say, hey, are you just going to go out there and just grab Alabama by the shorts and play them tough? They just dare the officials to call a foul on you every time down the court. We'll play them tough.
Yeah. Well, St. Anthony also, if you ever lose anything, and Audrey, do you know the prayer to St. Anthony? Because if you ever lose anything, your keys, your wallet, your phone, there's a prayer you pray to St. Anthony, and suddenly things.
We had it up yesterday. In the chat room. So
it's pretty interesting. And Brendan, you think about this.
You guys with the saint of this and that, and they're gonna find your shit. They're not gonna find your shit, Rob. It's
patron saint.
Well, yeah,
you're not gonna go patron saint of the find my wallet. Never works.
Well,
find the remote. Never works.
Hey, by the way,
I got the chain, the thing.
Well, people sit on the remotes all the time. That's the problem. Is these new remotes are small.
I don't want to know about your tech problems with your TV, because I have a hard time working the computer stuff first. So.
But when you stream, Brendan, they're smaller. But all right, we got a few minutes here. This weekend, though, Final Four. Every coach in America will be there. In Phoenix. Now, are they playing at Glendale where they play the football games?
Yes. Football. Yeah.
So you'll put 60, 70,000 people there. Boy, that's when
I did opening day there, by the way.
Oh, did
for the opening day of that stadium. I did it for the NFL years and years
retractable
ago.
Roof?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
First game.
Engineering marvel. I'd like to have an engineer explain to us, or an architect, or both, how do you make that thing work? It's really, really cool.
And by the way, roof thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just some actuators and some rollers, They put them out there and they close it, open it. They keep it closed.
As Mr. Gordon Liddy said in Fletch, it's all ball bearings, gentlemen.
It's all ball bearings these days.
It's all ball bearings.
My shoes. Do they even open it? I want to know, do they even open the roof?
No way for a basketball game.
Not for any, no, but I mean, for any reason, I don't think it opens.
Doesn't it have natural?
No. Well, it's Arizona.
I know.
It's just hot or raining like for 2 seconds, and then it's just real hot again. But I don't know if they can open the roof. I don't know. That's a good question. I'll look it up. By the way, I did look up your IMG moving to Birmingham. Rumors are circulating that a possible relocation for IMG Academy to Birmingham Southern College campus is in the works.
Wow. Okay.
That was on Hall Tech Sports, for Twitter. That's the only source. I'm not saying that's official, but it does track on Twitter.
Yeah, and the person that told me this has a very good history of being right. We can't be right all the time, but this person's pretty close to it. Now, I'm going to throw another one at you. Kind of drew the blank here, but when you're looking at what's going on in college, Bo Carter, and you think about all the coaches are going to be there, maybe they'll get together and talk about what we can do to get NIL under control, the transfer portal under control. Yeah, you look at your roster, and Brendan, how many guys have left Florida from this team so far?
Oh, I don't know what the total is. I know we were speculating at the end of last year, it was like 39 or something like that.
I'm talking basketball.
Oh, I don't know that. I don't know that. I can't say it accurately. That's a Franz Beard question.
Yeah, we're gonna find it out. Dave Baker is live over at Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. It is a great place. Love them. And let me say this too. Get out to Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square, Collierville, Tennessee. I'm wearing a Hewlett & Dunn Western shirt right now. Love these things. They've got the Acres Down South shirts. I saw boots in there Tuesday when I was out there, made from ostrich, snake. They have snapping turtle boots out there, folks. HewlettandDunn.com, over 7,000 pairs of boots. And I'm going to tell you something. Do yourself a favor. Check them out online. They ship anywhere. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your neighbors. We got fans all over the place watching this show. Referrals are great. You know what the old saying is? You know what cold calling is in the sales business? It's revenge for not asking for enough referrals. Okay? And that's what we do. So most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. Bo Carter, Gary Harris, Matt Dean, all of us. Brendan, fun show today. It is Savant Friday tomorrow. And let's see what happens on this IMG story. Bo Carter, closing comments and let them know how they can keep up with all your great work. And we're out of here.
Yes, quick, and Brendan will like this. The patron saint of basketball, Saint Sebastian. Put that in your trivia.
And smoke. Put that.
Of course, there's a patron saint of basketball.
No.
I know. I
don't know.
Probably
he probably bounced a cannonball off somebody when they were trying to invade his castle.
Yeah.
Bo.
But no, it's at Bo Carter 52, at B Carter 52, or Sports Page DFW of the Texas Sports Daily. Thank you for having
Hey, absolutely love it. And really, Brendan, was I right? Your dad's real name is Wilton?
I'm not telling you.
I'm calling him Wilton next time I talk to him.
You go ahead and do that. See where you get.
You see
where you'll have a nickname and you won't like it. He will give you a bad nickname.
Okay. Well, I do love the name Wilton. But anyway, hey, thanks, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Bo Carter, love it. Take care. Out of here.
Have a good day.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.